Can you guys hear all right out of this? Testing, testing. I can hear that I'm speaking into it, but the sound's not that great. Good job. All right. Roll call. Testing. Is that any better on the mic? Yes. All right. Welcome to the 56th annual banquet of the. Welcome to the 56th annual banquet of the National Federation of the Blind of Missouri State Convention. Jefferson City chapter is glad to have everybody here, and I have Jeff Gifted with a presentation.
Thank you. On behalf of the state affiliate and our chair that can't be here for the wage meetings, Ms. Morgan, I'm taking this time to present the King and Queen trophies to Chris and Nina Fairhoff.
We did it! Yay! How about a door prize?
I want a door prize. Thank you.
Okay, Nina, get a name out, and I want to give away $50 in cash, and that's from the law firm Cook Better Durhoff and Landwehr. Wow. $50. How about Jeff Wright?
All right.
Here we go, Linda. Somebody. How about another door prize? Okay, second door prize is a bottle of wine and a box of chocolates, and it's from Regions Bank here in Jefferson City, and the winner is?
But Jennifer Trotter's not old enough for wine.
Oh.
She can eat chocolate.
Is she here? Is Jennifer here?
Jennifer Trotter's back here.
Give her something else. Right. Give her something else.
Take the wine for me.
Okay. Until you stop me, I'll keep going. $10 in cash from our Kansas City chapter. $10 in cash.
Stephanie McDowell?
Yay! Thank you for the wonderful door prizes, Rena and Nina. I'd like to. Yes, over here. Thanks, over here. All right, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our fit table. First, we have our queen, Nina Fairhoff. by our king, Chris Therhoff. We have Debbie Wonder, wife of President Emeritus. President Emeritus Gary Wonder. Jeff White is next. All right, Jeff. Sheila Wright. All right. The Jefferson City. We have Ben Kane, my husband. For now. First Vice President, Julie Hurley, City and her husband, Ron Hurley. All right, and next we will have Kathy Wright. I'm sorry, Kathy Hurley.
Thank you for this day that you've given us. Thank you for no snow. Thank you for safe travel, and we pray for safe travel on the way home. We thank you for special times with our NFB family and friends. And we pray, Lord, especially for those who are not able to be with us tonight because of illness. We pray for healing and for your presence. We thank you for the food that we're going to have tonight, Lord. And we thank you, Lord, for the hope of a brighter tomorrow for all of us in the NFB. We thank you for the knowledge that you're always with us and by our side. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Kathy. Wonderful job. right. I tell you what, it puts me around long enough. That's right. Puck gets full, it runs over. Yeah. What she was doing was putting out that car night from like Colorado because of the rain. I mean, that's what it is. You know, she goes in and out. I don't know. She said they would. What's that $50 liquid? Organizational meeting. Yeah, we did. And I didn't buy it because this happened the last time we hosted this convention. We had these questions. And several of us told us we had Jeff and we had I don't need it. Like me too, I used to, when I first got into veterans and I would start to say, y'all would remember he and his wife came in, got in the same year that I did. Yeah, I was on the roof, yeah. When I was younger, my brother was climbing trees and around the politics, and I liked to do that. I did it anyway. When he wasn't watching. I did it when he wasn't watching. Did you get your chicken in?
My daughters are not blind, and I was scared to have blind.
Well, you know, my brothers had they had a fish drum too, but not as bad as mine. But my dad always thought, I would test it before I would walk on it and put my feet on it. That's the way I've always done. Not that much, but like I said, my dad let me do it because I did it. All 8 of us did. Well, you're going to be in 2 years of it. You all will be. Not next, I know, not next year, but in 2020. No, because, you know, I tell you what, that you don't like going there. It's a that's what I heard. I don't know. Really? I went down that area for a while. When I was a teacher, Boys have a big appetite.
That's what I've heard. I had three girls who were really
That's what All right, if I could have your attention, please. If scholarship winners, if you could slowly make your way to the hinge table, that would be great. And I have Shiv Wright, who is going to be presenting a special award.
Good evening. Anything yet? From time to time, there are people who have worked in our affiliate for a very long time and tonight I want to present the Gary L. Wonder Award to someone. It's someone I know that works every day on Federation business. And because I talk with them very frequently. And so tonight we would like to present this award to Carol J. Coulter. Gary L. Wonder Award presented to Carol J. Coulter of the National Federation of the Blind of Missouri for her outstanding commitment and dedication to our organization. April 7th, 2018. Thank you guys so much. I don't know. I really appreciate it, but after Gary Coggins, she let me take precedent.
There you go. Goodbye, Carol.
Totally unexpected, and I really enjoyed doing what I did, guys. And us, I should say us. Carol has been treasurer since 1991, and she received the Jernigan Award around that time, and so I was trying to remember the year that she became treasurer. So I said, John Giffen, why don't you ask Carol when she became treasurer? And so he did. You know, he asked so many questions. I thought he could do it innocently. But he texted her right away. She texted back and said, 91, why? And then after a while, Jeff comes back and he says, why did you want to know? Why did you want to know? And I just didn't answer him one way or the other. So what happened next? I got a text from Carol. Why does Jeff Kipling want to know? I had lots of fun with that too. There you go.
All right, and next this evening we have Julie McGinnity, who will introduce our scholarship winners.
Okay, there you go. Sorry, I got a lot of my hands right now. Okay. Well, there's a brown note here already. That's my sorry. No problem. I don't want to forget anything, so I got my notes
of all, I am not going to go any further without making my dog sick. Without thanking my fellow scholarship committee members. So, Roger Crome, Melissa Kane, Robin House, Aaron Magoon, Amy Wilson, and Gary Wonder. So let's give them a round of applause. So from about November 1st-ish through about now-ish, the committee works really, really hard to advertise the scholarship around the state to universities, high schools, RSV groups like the Lighthouse, and Delta Gamma, and St. Louis, and Missouri School for the Blind, just anywhere where blind students may happen to exist. And so we came, sorry, something was coming after me. So we worked very hard for 3 or 4 months, 5 months, I don't know. We work diligently every 2 weeks or so. We have a conference call starting in January, and we discuss what our process is going to look like, how we're going to keep our documents organized, how we're going to deal with different things that come up in the application process. This year, we're trying to get our application online, which we did, but it was a little delayed thanks to a lot of technical difficulties. And I would really like to thank Randy Carmack for all of his really hard work and his communication with me and Sheila. And he kept saying, well, it's going to be there soon. And then he was like, but no, I'm so sorry. There's a thing that I can't control. And he would explain it, and it would really go over my head. And Sheila would try to explain to me and be like, okay, Sheila, that's fine. I know it's not Randy's fault. Randy is awesome. He worked really hard for us. And he also worked really hard to make sure we had the documents online and you could download them and look at them, so your transcripts and your letters and different things. That was Randy who helped me organize all that. So let's give him a round of applause as well. So next I'd like to thank Sheila Wright because she answered all my questions, which is kind of a big job. Because I have a lot of questions, kind of like Jeff Giffen. I could have been more subtle with Carol, I swear. Because I'm always asking about or something, so. You don't have to laugh at me forever. Let's give Sheila Wright a round of applause for being a really awesome supportive president. Okay, so once everyone turned in their application documents, which everyone did super on time this year, it was wonderful, and the deadline was February 20th, and by that point we had 2 weeks before Gene Coulter was going to come after me, and we had to get some inaccessible documents transcribed into formats that we could read. We had to do it really quickly and have a lot of turnaround, and it had to be very organized. So I'd like to recognize our committee reader, Brittany Burke, who's a member of the Columbia chapter. Okay, so now on to the part involving, our winners. So we are awarding 4 scholarships tonight. We have really enjoyed getting to know this. The different struggles they've gone through and how they've overcome them. So I'd like to begin. I have the checks in hand here, and I would like to begin with a scholarship winner who I was, but she was just as fun-loving and happy and friendly as she was in 2011. But I feel like
and the committee does too, that, Bethany has kind of grown up in the Federation with us. And I said her name, so I'm really bad at this, but it's okay. So we are really proud of her. We really, really enjoyed getting to hear about just all the opportunities that she's had, some of which, thanks to the Federation, and her love for science and children and just making the world a better place. So we would like to offer our first scholarship to Bethany Bennington, and it is for $750. And my own side. We're so comfortable.
Good evening, everyone. I accept this scholarship with such joy because, as Julie said, I've been in the Federation for a few years now, and I feel too that I've really grown up in this organization and just cannot wait to pay it forward and do anything I can to help out in the future or share any kind of insight that I have. And I am so excited, to have Nora experience all the joys that I've experienced and meet everyone. And let Sheila finally hold her this weekend. She's not currently down here. She decided that she's really taken to learning how to scream as loud as she can, just for the fun of it, which is good. But I was like, people might not want to hear that. So she'll be down here a little later for lots of snuggles from all of you, I'm sure. But thank you so much, and thanks to the scholarship committee.
Okay, so our next scholarship winner, to whom I would like to present a scholarship, I will announce them out in a minute. She is our newest member. With Friday, and it was all about how to attract in the room. Let's impress her. And I said, Nina, it's your job to ask all the questions you can. Don't be shy. She's like, I'm not shy. And I was like, okay, all right, I can work with that. And she was not shy. She asked questions, she engaged, she made friends. I was really impressed how she just jumped in, and she's a good writer and a good speaker and a very impressive woman, and I hope she remains with us for forever. And I would like to present to her the scholarship of $750 to Nina Volana.
Everybody, I think the first thing that members, and that was me, and that didn't work too well for me. I love him all me, and I'm after. I've watched everybody and the passion that they've had here, and it has. The best that I do it for this organization. Thank you.
Okay, so our third winner I'd like to present to you tonight. She will be very familiar to all of you because she won a scholarship last year. So these two winners that I have left, these guys both won scholarships before. This one won a scholarship last year, and we've just always been impressed by her tenacity, her quick-wittedness, especially with comebacks. She's a great teaser. She's fun to talk to, and
School is very important. Clear by when she talks to you, you'll know. I don't know how I keep ending up behind these ladies. They give amazing speeches. I was truly amazed and honored that I received a second scholarship. I didn't think it would happen, and my heart was swelled, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. And now I can get a laptop that will stop crashing. All right, our final scholarship award tonight is will be given to another winner who has won before. This person won in 2016, and I could probably go on for a while about how impressed we were as a committee with her dedication, her intelligence, and her commitment, as well as her, I don't know, the way she jumped in this weekend. I can't think of a noun for it, but anyway, the way she jumped in this weekend and really helped out and showed how much she has been through on her journey and how successful she has been in learning blindness techniques and learning more about the education system and learning everything she can so that she can be the best teacher she can, and also, of course, a very dedicated federationist. So I would like to award our final scholarship in the amount of $1,050 to Jenny Carmel. Oh my. So I am almost done with my master's degree, and then I'm going to work on my CDI certification, which I said earlier. But like Julie said, I've always been legally blind, but a couple of years ago I lost all the rest of my vision, and then I also went back to school shortly after that, which may not have been the best choice, but it's okay. I learned best by doing, and so I've learned a lot, but the support of all of my friends in the Federation has been what's helped get me through, and I know what will continue to help me see this portion of my education through. And I feel so lucky to be a part of this organization, and thank everybody, and thank the scholarship committee. All right, thank you so much to everyone who has supported the committee, and to my fellow committee members and everyone else who supported us, the ones I mentioned before and probably ones that I haven't mentioned. Thank you so much, and let's hear it for our class of 2018.
A door prize.
Yes, can we get a door prize, please?
We can get a couple more, just as many as you like. Okay. It's from Joe. And along with that, since he's still a part of it, a MasterCard from Senator Mike Kehoe in the amount of $50.
Do we have a patty ham?
Patty Bam.
If we could get Carol Coulter, Linda Deweese, and Dorothy Walker to come to the table.
Brenda and Dorothy and Linda.
Do you have another door prize, Rita?
I do. Can Nina draw me a name? I'll explain it to you. We got from South Bank Gifts here in Jefferson City a really nice ladies' wallet, and the winner is
Mark. Is that Jen?
Deacon.
Not
Not here.
He didn't want a women's wallet.
Don't put it in here.
Right.
Another one.
Gloria Carson.
There we go. Want another one?
One more, please.
Oh, right. And this comes from Sun. It's a home mini. It's a
Google Home Mini.
Google Home Mini, and it's a $50 bag.
Susan Giselle.
All right. All right. I have Karen Coulter here, who is going to present the Zoomer's Traveling Trophy.
First, I'm going to say real quickly so that people who buy, you know, the HETCH scholarship is for $500, and then the other scholarship is also named for John and Rhoda Dower. So I'm sure they were very happy with the scholarships selections in their honor tonight. So now you know those answers. Two of you buy tickets, and you can answer them right. Get free tickets. Okay, on to the traveling, Roy Zuber's Traveling Trophy. So now it's Roy Zuber's Traveling Trophy. Okay, first of all, the Shelby chapter donated $50. The Lewis and Clark chapter, $427. Columbia chapter, $1,225.57. Jefferson City chapter, $3,643. And the winner is Kansas City chapter with $3,810. Chapter president, you'd like to come up and receive the award for your chapter? The grand total from chapters donating $9,100. Here comes Jack. This way, Daniel.
This way?
This way.
Okay, oh, there we go.
What are these?
In my Ways and Means chair, Jeff Giffen has been, I think he deserves a lot. The whole chapter for supporting him, and I'm just representing them, but this is for them, and like I said, our goal is to eventually retire this one, next year, and then Columbia can have the next one.
That's correct.
Thank you. Going to share. Thank you.
How about a door prize?
Yes, go ahead.
Of Roadway Safety Central Division, and it goes to
Julie Deedon.
She's not here.
Still around. Let me see what I can do. How about Liam McCoy?
Liam McCoy.
Way to go!
All right. Next, we have and Brenda made a beautiful quote for the Jefferson City chapter. They're going to do the drawing.
Participating in the quilt raffle.
My neighbor, Mary Ellen Sutter.
I just wanted to let you know that I did make the call from my sister Dorothy, quoted it and bound it for you all. And it is machine washable and dryable.
Oh, right.
That's great.
Thank you so much.
How about door prize?
Yes, please. A couple of
Okay,
prizes.
from Jefferson City Chapter, I have a Mizzou T-shirt, and it goes.
He slipped me a 20 earlier, so I Randy Carmack.
And I have another one right handy, and it's a really nice ring, ladies ring from Show Me Gold and Silver. I'm told it's $100 value, and it goes to
Miles Anderson.
And one more.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much. All right. And this is from JP Promotions, and it is a iPad cover. I think it is. That's what it's going to say. Yeah. And it goes to
Robert Williams.
That's right. All right.
Okay, I better slow down.
Now, the moment that we all look forward to at Banquet, we have with us someone who I think got started in the NFB like a lot of us do, came to a convention and was amazed and inspired by the folks that he met, and has gone on to, with his own initiative, to become a leader in the Federation and to lead us into the future. I'd like to introduce President Mark Riccobono.
Thank you, Melissa, and good evening, fellow Federationists. Can you hear me there in the back of the room? Yeah. That's Daniel back by the bar over there. I noticed the people in the back of the room by the bar were very proud they were sitting by the bar. It seemed kind of strategic. Well, first of all, I want to thank each and every one of you for this weekend. I needed this shot in the arm, so give yourselves a round of applause. The work of the Federation is demanding, and there are a lot of needs across the country, and we don't have all of the resources that we need to do all of the things that we need to do. And it's really tremendous to be able to come out and experience firsthand the wonderful work that each and every one of you are doing to build our Federation. And it helps to renew my sense of optimism and hope for the future. And so I appreciate you sharing that with me this weekend. It's always a little daunting to consider what to share, especially it hasn't been that long since I was here. But I noticed in the transition here that there are a lot of people that are stepping forward and stepping up, and I think that's a great sign of growth for the future. And I commend the leadership really for pulling more people into the work of our affiliate here. And I know that many of the folks who are putting their hands on the affiliate here will also be doing so on the national scene as well. So thank you for that. This week there's been a lot of talk about Martin Luther King, this being the 50th anniversary, unfortunately, of his assassination. But I thought I'd share a quote that I like, that I think expresses some of what I have experienced this weekend amongst the folks here. Martin Luther King said that human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle. The tireless exertion and passionate concern of dedicated individuals. And that's what I've experienced here at this convention. And it's part of what makes me proud to be a member of the National Federation of the Blind. We come to these banquets to reflect and re-examine why we're here and who we are and the journey that we're on. And although we all have different stories, there's a lot of common threads to the stories. Now, last time I was here, I talked a lot about being a driver or a passenger. figure some of you might still remember that, so I can't talk about that. So I thought I'd talk about how to grow corn. Being from Wisconsin, I might know something about this. And I don't know, Missouri's not really known for corn, so I thought I'd go with that. You know, the National Federation of the Blind, the corn roast, the Federation actually teaches you how to grow and harvest corn. You probably never realized that. Blindness itself is constructed slowly over time. And they're either a positive or negative. And it takes work to cultivate a positive understanding of blindness. I thought I'd share with you a little bit about my field experience, which really wasn't, for a long time, one where I understood blindness from a positive point of view. I grew up in the great state of Wisconsin. My parents both graduated from high school but didn't go to college. We didn't have any experience with blindness in our family. So at age 5, when I was diagnosed as being legally blind from aniridia and glaucoma, my parents didn't know anything about blindness. They had to rely on the professionals to tell them what blindness was or what it wasn't. And they did the best they could to encourage me to go out and do the things that I wanted to do. A lot of times not really knowing how I would or wouldn't do them. I didn't know any blind people. We didn't know any blind people. And so I just did the best I could to be a normal kid growing up on the south side of Milwaukee, enjoying the 1980s. I rode my bike, rode skateboard some of the time, not as good as Connor from the German Color. He actually had some alternative techniques. I just sort of, it's amazing I never broke anything. You know, we did all the things kids do. We played with firecrackers and jumped out of windows. I don't even know why we jumped out of windows. It just seemed like a thing to do. And over time, my outlook and understanding of blindness was shaped through many, many experiences, some maybe intentional, some not intentional messages that I received, often like little weeds growing up around me. I went to a elementary school very close to my house on the south side of Milwaukee, about 6 blocks away. So starting in first grade, I walked to and from school every day. In third grade, I couldn't see as well as I could in first and second grade, and so I started using large print books. And that was the first time I had an orientation and mobility evaluation. The orientation and mobility instructor took me out in the neighborhood. Now, I knew the neighborhood. I walked back and forth to school every day for more than 2 years by that time. I played in the neighborhood. I went to friends' houses in the neighborhood. It wasn't a challenge for me to walk around the neighborhood. Whether I could see the cracks in the sidewalk or not, I probably knew where they all were by muscle memory. The O&M instructor decided I was doing pretty good and went away. Nothing to be done here. The future is bright. Now in fourth grade, I had a lot of trouble reading the worksheets. Some of you will have to take note. Julie, you got to take a note on this. We got worksheets that were made on mimeograph machines. Some of you experienced those, I can tell. Well, nobody could read the mimeograph, whether you were blind or not, you couldn't read it. And I certainly could not read it, but the teacher of blind students would come by and she would help me fill out the worksheets. She was kind of a high-priced reader. But that's it. There was no conversation about blindness or what I might do differently, or she filled in the worksheets for me. When I got to 5th grade, I couldn't read the large print books anymore, and nobody told me that there was a better way to do it, so I started looking around, and they had given me this monocular to view things at a distance, and so I read my large print books with a monocular. And no one ever said, there might be a better way you could do it. I was learning to work hard. I was learning to get by, to figure things out for myself. But it didn't always work. The weeds often started to strangle me. In 6th grade, you get interested in things like girls and football. And we had a football drill that we had to run in gym class, where you were supposed to run a U-shaped pattern and catch a football when you hit the peak of the U. Now, I knew how to run, and I knew what a U looked like, and so I would run and throw my hands up, knowing that I had no chance in the world of catching the football. At least Charlie Brown had a little bit of hope that he was going to get a chance to kick it, There was no way I was even going to get close. But I would run and try to catch the football, especially to impress the girls in the class. I had no chance, and one time in particular that I remember, the kids were making fun of me for not catching the football. I'm sure I looked ridiculous. The gym teacher sat me down. He wanted to cultivate hope. And he said, look, I know this is upsetting to you, but don't worry. One day you're going to get contacts and everything will be fine. He wanted to cultivate hope, but the weeds grow slowly over time. In the subtle messages that you get, that vision is what's important. Vision is the thing that gives you freedom and opportunity. I went to a very rough middle school in Milwaukee. The year before I got to the middle school, the English teacher that I had when I got there had been stabbed with a pair of scissors. Consequently, I kind of learned to keep my head down, to stay out of the way. Another way to say it is I learned to pass. And I retreated to the back of the classroom. And no offense to the folks sitting by the bar this evening, but at least in my middle school, the folks in the back of the classroom were not the brightest in the group. But I was safe back there. I was safe back there because I didn't get called upon. I could hide out, and I didn't get challenged to have to see stuff or do stuff. Now I had to fill out worksheets now and then, and I could get one or another of the folks to help me scribble something down on a worksheet. My answers were often better than theirs, so they probably wrote my answers on their sheet too. I don't know. But I mostly could hide out back there because nobody really noticed. I was learning to pass, as I have described it sometimes. I was really learning to be a passenger in my own life. And I would have interest in doing this and that thing, but I had no clue of how to do it. And I would get the subtle messages every time I wanted to be bold and do something different. I'd get the message that vision is required. Little weeds growing up around me and strangling my hopes and dreams all the time. I was fortunate I chose to go to a business-focused high school in Milwaukee, and it just so happened that they had a resource room for blind students. Now, this was potentially a very good thing. It was the first time I ever knew there were other blind people in the world. I had never met a blind person through 8th grade. I had never met another student who was blind. As far as I knew, I was the only one out there. I was quite a rare specimen every time I went to the Milwaukee Eye Institute. All the local folks that were doing their residency were called in to look at me because I was so unique. So as far as I knew, I was it. There was an opportunity to cultivate hope. I had a teacher in the resource room who was a kind of blind person. Except you never knew he was a blind person. He had RP, and I never saw him use a cane. And he read Braille, but he read it with his eyes. Well, I had internalized a lot of the messages about blindness, and so I didn't find much in common with the other blind students. Maybe I couldn't find commonality with them because the weeds were in the way. See, I figured I worked harder than they did, which I did. I worked very hard. I had to work 3 times as hard. Or I figured I was smarter than they were. Or I figured I could see better than they could, which really wasn't saying much, but, I could see a little bit. And I could fake it really well. Except not always. I joined the debate team. I thought it would be a good thing to do, and talking didn't require vision. I knew that. I could memorize an 8-minute speech. So I could be first pro. That's about all I could do. Because after that, I couldn't take my own notes. I couldn't read somebody else's notes. I couldn't read any of the supporting materials. But I joined the debate team. Now, when I joined the debate team, I got paired up. My debate partner was a guy from the football team. Well, he was a guy that he was used to sitting in the back of the room. So we were quite a pair. But things get busier, right? So I, my sophomore year, went and the debate coach came and said, "Now, have you memorized your speech yet?" I said, "No, I haven't." He said, "Well, guess you can't be on the team." Well, I didn't have any other strategies. I didn't have any other arguments, so I quit the team and never went back. I had no idea that there was another way to do it. Now, let's see, we have some Cardinals fans here. And then we have some anti-Cardinals fans here. When I was in high school, I thought, the greatest job for a guy like me would be to work at County Stadium in Milwaukee. I'm a big baseball fan. I would love going down to County Stadium, and I was great at faking it, so I went down, and I convinced them to hire me to be an usher. I thought, this is a great job. This is my dream job. And it turned out I went in September. I got hired, so it was very late in the season, and at that time, the Green Bay Packers played 3 of their home games, not in Lambeau Field in Green Bay, but in Milwaukee at County Stadium. So the first work assignment I had was October 1992, Packers versus the Philadelphia Eagles. If we have any sports trivia buffs, you may know that that was Brett Favre's first game with the Green Bay Packers. I was assigned to work the bleachers. Now, this is the equivalent of the back of the room for the stadium. It's where the beer is the cheapest, the people are the rowdiest. And I had certain jobs, like we were supposed to keep the drunk folks off the field and talk them down. And point people to where to go to their seats and that sort of thing. But it was great because I loved being there. I loved the whole atmosphere. I just loved being part of the team. Well, I had certain techniques that I thought up for myself. I thought, I can't read anybody's ticket to tell them I knew what section I was working in, and I could figure out, how the rows worked and where the low numbers started and all that. So I knew the section I was working, but I'd have to ask people, well, what section you looking for, or row or whatever. And then I would just sort of generically point, like, yeah, it's over there. I thought it was a good technique. I was 15 or something. And so this is late October 1992. It's Wisconsin. It's very cold. I turned around to point where someone should go, and coming up behind me was a dad and his son and a tray of hot chocolate. Yeah, exactly. So you know how that ended. Well, a funny thing happened. I just decided, I never wanted that job. And I convinced myself, I never wanted to be there, which was not at all the case. It was the greatest job for a young guy who was just a sophomore in high school. It was my dream job. But I decided, nope, that wasn't the job I wanted. And the weeds kept growing. I went to prom, and I was so good at faking things, So I went to prom, and I had it all worked out. We went to this nice restaurant on the river there in Milwaukee. And I'd been to the restaurant before, so I knew where there were steps. And walked down the steps, no problem, and walked straight into the restaurant, except that the restaurant at the entry had a glass door. And it wasn't open, exactly. But I was great at faking it. I said, well, I was looking down at something. I wasn't paying attention. I always had an answer. I had no idea about so many things. When I was almost a senior in high school, it was the first time I learned about the National Federation of the Blind. Because at the time, our Wisconsin affiliate was pushing to pass a Braille bill in the state of Wisconsin. And my buddies who were the teachers, especially my mentor in the resource room, was against this bill. He said, it's ridiculous. Math teachers don't have to go through extra stuff to teach math. Why should we have to show extra competency to teach Braille? And I said, yeah, you're right. Go get it. I had been with this teacher for 3 years. I had a lot of respect for many things that he did. I didn't really understand that he was also faking it like I was, or to the extent that I understood it, it meant we had something in common. I never knew that there was something different. I went to the hearings, and I listened to the blind people talk about how important Braille was, and my teacher buddies talked about how they were a bunch of whiners, and, they should just get over it and get a job and things like that. But I was on their side. They told me, this was when I was a senior in high school, they said, we can teach you Braille if you want to learn it. I thought, okay, I'm a senior. I've worked really hard to have 2 study halls. Can't think of a reason why I'd want to learn it. No one told me why I should want to learn it. When I graduated from high school, I was given a fold-up white cane. It was the first time I ever saw a white cane, didn't know what to do with it. I was encouraged to go to the University of Wisconsin, and I was fortunate to get accepted at the university. I had to study all of the time, because I had no techniques. I could fake it in a lot of places. It got harder in college to tell which was the men's and which was the ladies' restroom, because everybody had long hair, including the guys, including myself for a while. But I worked it out eventually. I had all sorts of techniques. I never went places that I wasn't real familiar with. I'd scope out my classes days and days ahead of time. I'd get an O&M specialist to, go with me to my class schedule and check out my classes. But there were always weeds popping up here and there. I'd get brave now and then, and I'd want to say go to a party. Tonight I'm going out, man. And I'd go with the guys, and they'd say, now let's take a shortcut. Yeah, that never ended well for me. And in the dark. And I would always decide, actually I never wanted to go to that party. But of course there was something I wanted. I just didn't know how to get beyond the weeds. I didn't know that there was another way. Until in 1996, I was fortunate enough to get a soil transplant. I was invited to the convention of the National Federation of the Blind in Anaheim, California. I pulled my fold-up white cane out of the closet. Hadn't used it since the student orientation at the university 2 years earlier. And I got on a plane and I went to Anaheim, California. And I walked into the convention and there weren't any weeds. People were doing the things they wanted to do. And everywhere I turned, there were blind people that said, we can teach you how to cultivate opportunities in your life, and we're ready to do that, and we don't even know you, but we're ready to do that. And I don't know, sometimes I think they were challenging me. I went to lunch with one of the student leaders, and after lunch he says, now I'm late, we have to run back to the hotel. And I'm thinking, I'm not late for anything. Why do I have to run back to the hotel? But it's 106 degrees in Anaheim, California. We're wearing suits, and we're running down this boulevard. There's no sidewalks. And, and I'm using this cane. It was kind of a clunky cane. I've never asked it, but I've always wondered if that was an intentional test to see, if I would push myself a little bit. The Federation believes in us before we believe in us. And that experience for me at that convention led to many hard seasons of planting and trying to cultivate something new in my life. And in a real way, that doesn't happen overnight. It takes many seasons, a lot of time to understand. And in many ways, that understanding is still continuing today. Because when we step outside of this space that we have together, many people talked about it in their presentations today, the weeds are going to keep popping up. And I found that I always had to come back to the Federation to help me pull those weeds out. There's some unique elements about the Federation that help us with this. The first is what I like to call the Federation soil. It's really this unique space that we have with each other. It's something you can't find anywhere else, and I happen to believe that this space that we create with each other is what's normal. The rest of the world is not normal. But this space here, this is normal. And then there's the tools of cultivation. They're embodied in the kernels of wisdom that make up the Federation philosophy, as well as the little tips and tricks that we as blind people use to overcome the artificial barriers or to have alternatives to using eyesight. But then there's that third element, which is the opportunity to not just take, but to give. I like to describe it as the Federation offers us an opportunity to be part of the co-op. And it's actually in the giving that we learn about how it is that it's respectable to be blind, and how to really put those tools of cultivation to the test. So I spent a lot of time studying the Federation and testing what these people say. Can it really be true? What's the big deal with these long canes? Does it really matter? And I would run into situations where the weeds would keep popping up. And I would have to go back to my Federation family to help me rip those weeds out. I was fortunate to learn about the tools of cultivation by going to the Colorado Center for the Blind. And shortly after that, I was appointed to be Director of Statewide Services for Blind Children in the state of Wisconsin. This was a year out of college. I was just short of my 24th birthday. I knew nothing about the education of blind children except the miserable experience that I had. So in some ways, I knew quite a lot. And I had the philosophy of the National Federation of the Blind. So I had to keep coming back to the Federation. I had to keep coming back to challenge my own ideas, to learn from other folks. And every time I thought I had it figured out, I ran into something new, and I'd have to go back to the Federation soil, put those tools to the test. And every time I got something out of being a member of the Federation, I tried to give back, and something odd happened. In giving back, I always got more than I gave. I found that I could never catch up. In 2003, I was fortunate enough to be hired as an employee of the National Federation of the Blind. I started working under our president and the executive director of the Jernigan Institute, Betsy Zaborowski, who taught me a lot about planting and harvesting as well. And my wife, Melissa, we had gotten married a year before we came to Baltimore. We bought a house. We suddenly had a number of children. We were working hard. It wasn't that sudden. Had great friends. Living the American dream. And you think, okay, well, you're a blind person. You've done pretty well. Maybe you don't need this federation anymore. Some might think that. Maybe some in this room who have been here for 10 or 20 years, or who are here for the second time are wondering, how long do I need this thing? That's where growing good corn comes in. So let me tell you a story about a great farmer in Wisconsin who year after year, his corn won the blue ribbon at the state fair every year, without a doubt. A reporter found out that this farmer who was growing this great corn was giving his best seed corn away to his neighbors. The reporter thought, that seems kind of odd. So he went to talk to the farmer and he said, now, your corn is the best in the state. And you're giving your seed corn away to your neighbors. Don't you think that that's going to hurt your chances to have the best corn in the future? They're going to steal your ideas. They're going to steal your crop. And the old farmer probably mumbled some expletives under his breath about how ignorant the reporter was, but said, you obviously don't understand how this works. See, when the corn is ripening in the field, the wind picks up pollen from the ripening corn and swirls it from field to field. And if my neighbors grow inferior corn, it doesn't matter how good my seed corn is. Over time, it's going to be less and less valuable. So the secret is, it's actually not a secret to a farmer in Wisconsin, is that the only way I can grow good corn is if I help my neighbors grow good corn. My corn might still be better in some ways, but if their corn isn't good, mine's not going to be good at all. And that's the essence of why I continue to be a member of the National Federation of the Blind. Because I find that no matter how much we know or we think we understand blindness, the weeds are going to keep popping up. Unless we have folks like you who are doing good things as well and helping me and Melissa and other people pull out those weeds, we won't be able to go to all the places we need to and do all the things that we need to do. And I've learned this lesson over and over and over again. I was running educational programs at our national headquarters, and I used to call up the president of the federation and say, we got a group of kids coming in, these usually high school kids, and one of the things we would do to teach them about fear is to get them to use the chainsaw. So I'd call the president up and say, now we got a group coming in, you got to teach them how to use the chainsaw. And he'd say, fine, okay. And one day he said, one of these times we're going to have to teach other people how to teach the chainsaw. This is a lot of work. I can't be the only one that can do this. And I said, well, that's a good idea. So the next time when I called him up, said, we got folks coming in to got to use the chainsaw. He said, well, we got to put the class together to teach some folks. So I got a couple of individuals, including myself, and we learned how to teach the chainsaw. And so then he said, so you're going to teach it this time? And I said, well, I guess so. He said, well, don't worry, I'll be there to help. Now, I don't really know what I expected him to do to help, but he stood over on the side, and we got the first young lady. I remember she was from Texas, and I told her about the chainsaw, and I went over all the parts about 18 times, not because she couldn't get it, because I really was nervous about turning on the chainsaw. See, I knew how to use the chainsaw, and I had used it very safely always, many times, and no problem. The chainsaw was no big deal to me, but teaching it, I didn't see myself as a teacher of the chainsaw, but using it was no big deal. So we turned on the chainsaw and cut the log and turned it off, and I thought, ooh, the first one is over. And Dr. Maurer said, well, looks like this is under control. I'm leaving. The Federation believes in us before we believe in us. Now, I'm sure he observed that I had the skills to do it, but it was, to me, the fact that I was pushed to do something that even I didn't think I could do. And I had been very successful in a number of things. My son Austin was born in 2006, and in 2010, same week as baby Michaela, my daughter Oriana was born. And we were there in the hospital, and I went to pick Oriana up. They do all the poking and prodding early on. And I went to pick her up from the nursery, and they said, on Monday, we want you to go see a pediatric ophthalmologist because Oriana's eyes don't respond as expected. And my heart stopped. Not because of blindness, because I knew what to do about that. But I instantly had the suffocating feeling of being surrounded by all those weeds. And I had been working on the education of blind children for about a decade by that point, and I recognized that it wasn't hardly any better than it was when I was a kid. And I didn't want that to be my own daughter's experience. That was one of the moments that I had that real understanding of why this federation is so important for us to cultivate hope and opportunity for each other. No matter how successful any one of us are individually, we continue to need what we offer to each other collectively. And I can tell you, I definitely need help. When I go to an IEP meeting, all I can think about is which one of the professionals I'd like to choke. Because, they're saying such nonsensical things about my kid. And it's not that I wasn't passionate about the education of blind children before, but when it's your kid, it's different. And my children have benefited from growing up in the Federation. And in fact, they're continuing to teach me how to use the tools of cultivation, because sometimes the weeds get in the way. My son Austin is not blind, and I took him to kindergarten, and in kindergarten, the parents get to kind of hang around in the back of the classroom. This is to help the parents feel better about it, not the kids. And I'm standing back there, and I hear this little kid say, "What's the deal with that guy's eyes?" And I'm having flashbacks to when I was in school, and I'm thinking, I can't pop this little kindergartner. What do I do in this situation? My son Austin looks over and says, "He's just blind." I thought, that's a pretty good answer. We continue, the Riccobono family continues to need the cultivation that happens in the National Federation of the Blind. And that's why I'm honored every day to serve as president of this great organization. It's humbling to think that over a period of time, I've made some contributions to the organization, but what fuels me to do that is that you continue to make contributions to my life through the work that you're doing. The weeds are always popping up, and those of you in this room, all of you in this room, are making a difference in my life every day. The work that this affiliate has done to provide leadership for blind parents across the country is invaluable to me as a blind parent. And I had been blessed to talk to many blind parents across the country who have faced many horrific situations. And it's really because this affiliate helped raise the awareness that we needed to put more resources into that. And there are dozens of examples of great farmers here that I could talk about. Nathan is probably one of the youngest farmers we got. I was kind of intrigued with the idea of him being chapter president. If that happens, let me know. I'd like to come check it out. And Julie, who I've had many opportunities to spend time with. She was an intern at our national headquarters, and I think she continues to be thoughtful about how to apply the tools in her own life and to challenge herself to go to new places. And she talked about fear today, which is a topic I happen to like. I wrote a Banquet speech about it. And I think there's a lot we can learn from fear. Society tells us to run away from fear. Society tells us blindness is something to be feared. I think Julie touched on some topics, and her emerging leadership in the Federation is something that we should all be proud of. Daniel? Still back there, Daniel? Okay, good. Someone's got to watch the back of the room. And, I love that Daniel's pushing us to be thoughtful about autonomous vehicles. And how are we going to own that conversation as blind people? And what are we going to do with it? We need that. He gave me a lot of credit for the work we've done with autonomous vehicles, but the truth is it's the work that the Federation has done. And the recognition that we received earlier this year was not for me, it was for us. It was because we have folks like Daniel who want to be thoughtful about how do we get access to these cars Not 10 years down the road, but as soon as they are available to everybody. That's growing good corn. Our scholarship winners, who all exemplify the process of cultivating hope and opportunity. I love what Ruby said about we're not just federationists when we have our federation hat on. We're representing the federation all of the time. I love that. I love seeing parents and grandparents, like Kathy over here, applying our philosophy to kids as young as possible. Just think about what these kids are going to do in the future and how much they're going to make our fields better from what they do. And it takes many people. But there's also another element that it takes, and that's leadership. We know that our leaders are expected to get a lot of work done, and most of the things that the leaders do, you will never see. They're behind the scenes. They're happening before the sun comes up. The leaders are expected to be in the field. And I said this at the beginning of the convention. Our president here in Missouri has the challenge of coming after a very successful farmer. But I am very proud of the work that Sheila Wright is doing and the team of workers. Some of these things may be familiar to you. You may have had similar experiences. You may still be struggling with some of these experiences. I want you to know that I'm here to cultivate the best federation crop that I can. And I want you to take full advantage of what I'm able to cultivate. But I need your help. I need you to cultivate as well. I can't be the only one tending to the field. I can't be the only one that's trying to make our corn even better. And there are challenges ahead that we face, but there are so many more opportunities. Wherever you are on that journey of pulling out the weeds, I want you to know tonight that everybody in this room is with you. In fact, everybody in the Federation is with you. But we also expect you to be with us. And if we work together, we are completely unstoppable. So whether it's in the boardrooms or on the streets, with picket signs or with braille notes, we have the opportunity to define our own future. Based on what I've seen this weekend, I have no doubt that the future of the National Federation of the Blind is bright. Let's go grow the National Federation of the Blind.
Absolutely, I think that definitely deserves a
I would like to see who will be the lucky winner of the NFB Windows program. And this was received from our national office because of the good work we had done with the AT&T testing Cartronics, and we did receive this from our national office.
A certificate for the KNFB reader.
Yes.
I think you could draw my name.
Amy Wilson, I did.
Dang it.
Amy Wilson? Okay, and I have here, and it comes from the king and queen and their family. It's a pen friend. It's worth $160, and it goes to Aaron Magoon. I have one more, and it's this is Dick's Sporting Goods $25 gift card donated by Melissa Kane, and it goes to and Melissa received this as a result of our fitness challenge. Okay.
Way to go.
The last name's Marianne. Her
Oh.
first name's Marianne.
That's the Sprint lady. We have a Walmart $50 gift card from a Walmart $50 gift card from our Kansas City. It's a Kansas City chapter member. He wanted to remain anonymous. And who's the lucky winner?
Helen Stevens.
And I have something here. It's very nice. It's from our Jefferson Bank here in Jefferson City. $50 value. It's a set of knives.
Jenny Carmack.
Just another way to keep Randy behaving.
I have another $25 gift card, and this actually comes from Tom Stevens in our Columbia chapter. It's a $25 gift card, and who's it to?
It's cash.
It is cash. Okay, it's cash. You're right.
I know Brittany and Bert can use it.
There you go.
Thank you, Rita.
I have a few more when you're ready.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I think that we need to raise a little money to continue growing the Federation. So if Carol Coulter would like to work on raising money for the PAC plan.
All right, you guys, start talking a little list of who's raising and who's new and everything, and we will get you check marks. Anyone have?
All right, so the PAC plan is pre-authorized contribution. It's an amount that you set that is deducted from your checking account each month. And it's an easy way to help grow the Federation. And I don't know, does anybody know what place we're in currently?
We're in
8th place. So,
a little behind 7.
all right, so we need to to at least 7th place. Oh, now come on, guys. We can beat Nebraska. I know this.
You can now use credit card or your debit card too if you don't have a check.
I can't swear to it, but I thought it was $40.
You can choose where to have by the 10th or the 20th of the month. Anybody out there? Wake up!
Who wants to raise the money? Come on.
We talked about membership, and you guys all had all these ideas for us to do. How are we going to do it if we don't have that? All right.
Okay, who's gonna up their parent plan tonight? Anyone? Let's show President Rick Abaya what this affiliate's made of. Thank you, Jenny and Randy. $5 up. Who can match that? Come on, guys. Ron and Kathy, 5. Are you new guys or is it up? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Come on, guys. Is anybody awake out here or we got dead Missourians? Come on. Is this a lively bunch or not? Yes. Okay, the chorus up by 5. Thank you guys. Come on, come on. Okay. We've only gone up $15, guys. Let's go.
Brian, again?
Brian?
Up by $5.
All right, great job, Brian. Thank you.
And President Ricardo has just informed me that we actually are in 7th place.
All right.
We're working on overtaking Louisiana.
We can beat Louisiana, guys. Come on. Did everybody fall asleep? Have we been back here at the bar too long, or what happened, guys?
Hey, Carol, you want me to give a door prize while they think about it?
Maybe we need to open the bar. I don't know. We need to loosen these people up. Shall we have the bartender come back? I don't know. Come on, guys. Anyone want to sign up new?
All right.
It's painless. It comes out before you even know it's there, and then you don't have it to spend with this.
What's that big cake? We'll do $20.
All right, good job. Okay, good job, a new one. Ours is new. All right. This is sad. You guys are so quiet. Missouri is never quiet.
I'm not sure I know these people.
I don't know either, Melissa. It's awful dead out here. This is not good for auction time either. This is, my goodness, we need some younger people if this is it. You guys are like pros. Elizabeth Kaiser up by 5. Thank you, Elizabeth. All right. Unless our President Emeritus can light a fire under you people, I don't know what I can do anymore. All right. Going once. Going twice. Come on, guys. All right. I guess that's the best we're going to do, folks. Thank you for all of you who helped out. Appreciate it much.
Go ahead, Rita.
Okay, what I have here
And Gene Freeman can make his way to the head table.
And we have here also it's a really nice from American Shoe here in Jefferson City, like a $50 scarf. And let's put $10 with that from our Lewis and Clark chapter. And the winner is.
I think that'll look very nice on Willa Patterson.
All right, we have one more here. It's a very nice purse from Sappy's Ladies Fashions. And we're going to put with that $25 in cash from our Columbia chapter.
And that purse is going to look awesome on Hal Boyer.
All right, I have one piece of business to take care of before Gene Freeman does the auction. I certainly hope you're more lively during the auction than we were during the pack plan. Chris Griggs has made the centerpieces on your tables this evening using his 3D printer. They are of the NFB logo. And one of you lucky people at each table gets to take it home with you. It will be the person with the birthday closest to convention.
Yes.
At each table. So. Yes, this convention, the closest to April 6th and 8th.
You said 6, 7, and 8?
That's correct.
Okay, that would be. Whatever. Mine was 10, but I don't
There are also coffee mugs full of candy at the table in the center of the centerpieces. And the oldest individual at the table can take the coffee mugs home.
Melissa, can I give another door prize or two, please?
Okay, go ahead quickly.
Okay, what we have here, and all of you know this person, we have a $50 gift. It's a card where you can go to Chili's or Macaroni Grill, and this comes from, you remember Chris Rose and NanoPack is given a $50 gift thing from for Chili's or Macaroni Grill, and who's the winner?
Dale Ham.
And the last one,
Right here.
Dale there? Draw again.
Laverne Tobin.
Oh, she's not here.
Third time's a charm, right? How about Leslie Keller?
Leslie Keller.
She's here.
Okay, the last one I want to get, it's from my Springfield chapter. It's a $25 gift thing from to the Olive Garden, and that goes to who?
Are you ready? How about Ruby Polk?
All right. Thank you for all those wonderful door prizes, Rita and Nina. It is 9 o'clock, so the bar is open for you guys in the back. But hey, don't get too involved in the bar because Jean Fleeman here is about to auction off a bunch of wonderful items there. Okay, but real quick before I hand it over to Jean, Chris Briggs just let me know that he located a pair of sunglasses. They were on the table outside of the reserve room. So if anybody lost them, come find us and we'll get those to you. All right. So yours.